Developing right now on Morning News Now, delicate deal this morning, a 2-week ceasefire under fire just 2 days in over an intense new round of Israeli strikes in Lebanon. Both Israel and the U.S. saying Lebanon was not part of the agreement, but Iran and mediator Pakistan disagree. Now, President Trump sending a warning to Iran after reports that the critical Strait of Hormuz has been shut down yet again. All this as Vice President Vance prepares to travel to the Middle East for in-person talks.
If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy.
We'll bring you the latest from the Middle East to Washington. Meanwhile, the uncertainty overseas causing whiplash on Wall Street, with the Dow set to open down this morning just hours after posting its best day in a year. And at the pump, drivers could soon get some relief, but how soon and by how much? What you need to know. Plus, convicted this morning, a Hawaii doctor facing up to 20 years in prison after a jury found him guilty of the attempted manslaughter of his own wife. More on the verdict, the reaction, and what happens next. And Nix the Nicotine will show you the new ad campaign warning young people about the dangers of those popular nicotine pouches. Important message as the popularity of those has grown.
Exactly. More people are smoking and everything, so those campaigns incredibly important. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for starting your day with us. We're going to begin this hour with the latest out of the Middle East as this fragile 2-week ceasefire between the U.S., Israel, and Iran gets off to a rocky start. Israel unleashed intense attacks on Lebanon overnight after the U.S. and Israel said Lebanon was not included in that ceasefire agreement.
Lebanon's health ministry said hundreds of people have been killed or injured in the new round of strikes. Those attacks quickly condemned by world leaders. Israel began its ground invasion of Lebanon weeks ago, targeting the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah. An Iranian news agency reported that oil traffic through the Strait of Hormuz stopped again yesterday because of Israel's strikes on Lebanon. This after the first tankers were allowed to pass through. President Trump said the U.S. would be helping with what he calls the traffic buildup in the Strait, while an Iranian news agency is suggesting that naval mines are now in the Strait. Now, despite the ceasefire, states in the Persian Gulf, including the UAE and Kuwait, also reported new Iranian attacks on Wednesday after blasts were reported at oil sites in Iran. And President Trump, in a Truth Social post just before midnight on Wednesday, said U.S. troops would remain in and around Iran until a real agreement is reached. He also called for Iran to abandon its nuclear weapons and to open the Strait of Hormuz. The president said if Iran does not comply with the ceasefire agreement, then, in his words, the shooting starts bigger, better, and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. All this comes ahead of peace talks expected between the U.S. and Iran in Pakistan this weekend. We have a team of correspondents and analysts joining us today on Morning News Now to break down this fragile ceasefire. We begin in Washington with NBC News correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. And Iran is accusing Israel and, by extension, the U.S. of violating the ceasefire's terms because of those escalating Israeli strikes in Lebanon that Israel's prime minister said this morning will continue and are not part of the ceasefire, as the U.S. is working to keep upcoming peace talks on track. Growing threats to a fragile peace as Israeli attacks in Lebanon and turmoil in the Strait of Hormuz risk undermining a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. President Trump posting overnight that the U.S. military will remain in place until a full peace deal is reached. And if it's not, quote, the shooting starts. Vice President J.D. Vance set to lead the U.S. team in peace talks with Iran this weekend in Pakistan, zeroing in on a central sticking point.
We want Iran to not be able to make a nuclear weapon. We want the nuclear fuel, which is something the president has made very clear.
Iran disputes that giving up its enriched uranium was part of the ceasefire agreement. The Strait of Hormuz is also central to a deal, and Iran's military is asserting it will maintain control over that vital energy route, with shipping traffic still not flowing freely, despite President Trump's demands it be fully open under the ceasefire. The president floating a possible joint venture between the U.S. and Iran to collect tolls on the strait, as Iran Iran is tying the critical waterway to another obstacle to peace, Israel's ongoing strikes in Lebanon, where it's battling with Iran-backed Hezbollah militants. Mediator Pakistan initially said the ceasefire includes Lebanon. Israel and the U.S. dispute that.
Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire.
Iran says the fighting must end there, too, under a final deal. Serious challenges on a fraught path to peace. And amid growing concerns over whether the ceasefire will hold, oil prices started creeping up again overnight, a sign it's likely to take a while to see lower gas prices. Food costs potentially affected, too, because of disruptions to fertilizer shipments at what is a critical time. Savannah and Joe.
And Alice, with the Strait of Hormuz central to the peace talks and to trying to get those gas prices down, why is it Iran is still directing ships to use alternate shipping routes?
Yeah, this is this really key leverage point, the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is suggesting it may have laid mines in the most highly trafficked portions of the strait, saying that due to the, quote, wartime situation, ships need to coordinate with Iranian armed forces to use detours for traffic coming in and out. President Trump has demanded there be free flow traffic through there, so it's unclear how that's going to square with the situation we're seeing now. Guys.
Right. Alice Barr in Washington. Alice, thank you.
Let's move now to NBC News International correspondent Raf Sanchez, who is joining us from London with the latest. Raf, good morning. So let's start with what's happening on the ground, ongoing strikes across the Middle East. Despite that 2-week ceasefire deal, what is the latest?
Savannah, Joe, good morning. So we have seen an end to American and Israeli strikes inside of Iran, and we have now largely seen an end to Iranian strikes, both on Israel and on those Gulf countries. There were a few lingering attacks on Wednesday. That seems to have been a product of it taking some time for it to filter down to Iranian commanders to stop shooting. But what you were seeing on your screen there is the scene in Beirut, where the violence continues on an enormous scale. Israel carrying out the largest airstrikes of the entire war on the Lebanese capital. 250 people, among them children, killed all across Lebanon in this wave of attacks. More than 1,000 injured. That's according to Lebanon's civil defense. The UN human rights chief is saying it is nothing short of horrific that there was this level of violence after a ceasefire had already gone into place. But the key sticking point is the one that you were just discussing. The U.S. and Israel say Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. Iran says it is. Pakistan says it is. Pakistan, of course, is the one that is supposed to be mediating this ceasefire. And this really, really is a test of this truce now, whether it is going to be this ongoing Israeli attack in Lebanon that potentially derails this agreement. The Iranians telling the U.S. that they have to decide at this point between continuing the ceasefire or allowing the Israelis to continue their targeted attacks against Hezbollah.
Raf, let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. What is the status of the strait right now? Where do efforts stand on just trying to reopen it?
So I just checked, guys, in the last hour with one of the big maritime data firms. They say 5 ships passed through the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. All 5 of those are bulk carriers, so none of them are oil and gas tankers. 5 ships. Before the war, you were seeing about 110 passing through every day. So this is still an absolute trickle of what it should be. The strait clearly not open at this stage. And you are hearing these ongoing Iranian threats saying that there are naval mines in the middle of the strait. And so ships that want to pass through will continue need to take what's being called the Tehran toll booth, passing through Iran's territorial waters. That is going to be a major sticking point, both with the U.S. and with countries in the Gulf. Guys.
Raf, we sort of saw both the U.S. and Iran declare victory in a way yesterday. How are world leaders responding to this interim deal?
So I can tell you here in Europe, there is a lot of relief that there is a ceasefire, even if it is fragile. You are seeing the British Prime Minister, the French President saying that they are prepared to do whatever they can to try to bolster this agreement. There is a lot of concern here about the ongoing Israeli attacks in Lebanon. And then in the Gulf, where I spent the last couple of weeks in Qatar, real worry is that the Iranians are going to try to extend their control over the Strait of Hormuz past some kind of full-time peace agreement. The Iranians, in one of their 10 demands that they put forward as part of these ceasefire talks, say that they want to maintain sovereignty over the strait going forward. Guys.
All right, Ralph Sanchez, thank you so much.
Let's take a closer look at the upcoming negotiations in Pakistan now with Kenneth Pollack. He is Vice President for Policy at the Middle East Institute. Kenneth, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning. These talks are supposed to start in Islamabad Saturday morning. We know Vice President Vance is leading the U.S. delegation along with the Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Weeks into this war, where do they even begin? Is it with Iran's supply of uranium? Is it with the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, I think first, Joe, they're going to have to start by defining what the heck they agreed to. And this is what we're seeing play out over the past 24 hours is that this ceasefire seems to have been put together in such a slapdash fashion that neither side can agree on what they actually agreed to do. And that's got to be a starting point, because if this ceasefire is going to last past the weekend, they've got to come to some kind of an agreement on what the terms are about who's going to do what and not do what during this 2-week window. If they can't deal with that, it's not going to be possible to deal with any of these enormous issues that they're now supposed to be trying to deal with. Issues we should remember that the Trump administration has not been able to resolve with Iran the prior 15, 16 months, and that in some cases, the United States and Iran haven't really been able to agree on for decades.
So the Strait of Hormuz has become just such a critical piece of this and really is such leverage that the Iranian regime has. I want to play something that Vice President Vance said about this last night. We'll talk on the other side.
We actually think that we are seeing signs that the Straits is starting to reopen. I think you guys have probably seen oil prices have come down. So I think the oil markets, the gas markets are seeing the same thing. But the president's very, very clear. The deal is a ceasefire, a negotiation. That's what we give. And what they give is the Straits are going to be reopened. If we don't see that happening, the president is not going to abide by our terms if the Iranians are not abiding by their terms.
So we just heard from Raf a little bit about, what's not happening in the Strait, what hasn't sort of returned to any type of normal status. So how realistic do you think it is that the Iranians do reopen this while talks are playing out, or that they're going to agree to any kind of deal that I think importantly takes away the control they now have of the Strait, which, by the way, they did not have or exercise before this conflict began?
Correct. I mean, that's absolutely right, Savannah. The Iranians are claiming that they are now going to be able to extract this toll. And of course, it's been very unhelpful that you've had President Trump more or less suggest that that might be fine with the United States because we're also going to take a cut of it. That's not good either, right? That too would be a massive change from before the war started, and one that would be terrible in terms of the impact on oil, in terms of impact on regional politics, in terms of the entire kind of global international order. But that's only one of several that need to be dealt with. The problem that we have here is, as you heard Vice President Vance just say, the U.S. absolutely clear on what they agreed to, Iranians absolutely clear on what they agreed to, but these two things seem to have very little intersection. Right. And that's all got to be straightened out. And, it's got to be straightened out very, very quickly. And it's got to be straightened out in a way that the United States really can say at the end of this war, the situation with Iran is better, not worse. If the U.S. agrees to allow Iran to collect tolls in the Strait of Hormuz, that would be disastrous. If the U.S. agrees to pull U.S. troops out of the region, as the Iranians are also claiming, that would be disastrous. Right? There are so many terms involved in this that really could end the war on a much worse set of terms for the United States than before it began.
Kenneth, this remains an unpopular war here in America. The latest Economist YouGov poll published this week shows 53% of Americans don't support it. So with the Trump administration facing this political pressure here at home, do you think they have the wherewithal to finish out these talks, to end this conflict long enough to significantly curb the Iranian threat and put in place a framework for a peace that's actually lasting?
Yeah, this is going to be really hard, Joe. First, negotiating with the Iranians is always incredibly painful. They love to negotiate. They're not nearly as good at it as they think they are. They typically push deals past the actual equilibrium point. Very, very painful altogether. But, let's go back to a point that Savannah just made, which I think is also very important, which is that going into this, the Iranians believe that they're now in an advantageous position. They believe that by asserting control over the Gulf, they have President Trump right where they want him, and they don't seem to show any sign of giving that up. And so we've now got layered onto these decades of problems that I just mentioned, problems that have bedeviled any number of past administrations between the U.S. and Iran. We've now got layered onto it this new set of problems that have arisen during the war.
Kenneth Pollack, good to have you with us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, U.S. markets surged on Wednesday following news of this two-week ceasefire, with the Dow Jones logging its best day in a year. We've got our friend, you can see him, Investopedia editor-in-chief and chief business editor of People Inc., Caleb Silver, to talk more about the broader impact here. Caleb, good morning. So just first, let's walk through what we saw on Wall Street yesterday and what you're expecting today, how the market's going to open, given this fragility, the uncertainty here around the ceasefire.
Yeah, it was all green yesterday, a huge relief rally, the biggest rally we've seen in the stock market since April of last year after sort of the loosening of those Liberation Day tariffs. So a big relief rally across pretty much all sectors, especially tech sectors, the travel sector, all sectors that would be impacted by these higher oil prices. This morning, it doesn't look like that at all. Reverse, not as bad, not as extreme as yesterday, but we're seeing oil prices back up near $100 a barrel, both for West Texas Intermediate, what we use here in the United States, and Brent crude, what they use in Europe. You're going to see a sell-off when Wall Street opens at 9:30 a.m. today. Not extreme, but you see how volatile these markets are right now, given the uncertainty that's happening in the Strait of Hormuz.
Caleb, let's talk more about this roller coaster in the energy markets. The oil prices dipped yesterday following the truce announcement. They're ticking back up today after Iran accused the U.S. of violating parts of this ceasefire. Is this volatility something that we just have to get used to over the next several days, the next several weeks?
Yeah, maybe several months. Don't forget that oil trades 23 hours a day, 6 days a week around the world. So you're seeing these big fluctuations in price. They don't make their way all the way to consumers right away, because oil is this commodity that trades both for the spot price, what we pay for it today, where there's a lot of demand, and what we pay for it in the future. You see these big price swings, and that ultimately affect consumer prices, jet fuel prices, fertilizer costs, food costs, everything pretty much that requires fuel.
So, Caleb, how's all this impacting gas prices and also jet fuel prices when we see those airline tickets? Are either of these likely to come down anytime soon if this were to hold?
Yeah, they're not going to come down very quickly. You usually see a week to a 2-week delay when it comes from higher oil prices. It takes about 2 weeks to make its way to the gasoline tanks. Now it takes a lot longer to come back down. Oil rises very quickly, but drops very slowly like a feather. And there's a lot of price elasticity that retailers have discovered over the last few weeks as they've raised prices. And these airline companies in particular, they buy fuel into the future. So they're not going to lower prices, especially when they don't know what the price of oil is going to be 2-3 months from now.
All right, Caleb Silver, thanks as always.
We are less than a week from tax day, but on a day that is defined by dollars and cents, some Americans say they're going to make a political statement and won't be paying their federal taxes this year.
It's part of a growing call to protest against the war with Iran. It's known as war tax resistance. It is a form of protest that's been around for decades. NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal is here with more on this. Ali, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, and a very interesting trend. It's certainly gaining a lot of traction on social media, but as you said, it's been around for decades. It was made very popular during the Vietnam War. We did speak with experts along with some of those protesters who told us that there are multiple ways to resist. That could be adjusting or stopping those federal tax withholdings. It could be delaying some of those filings or just not paying altogether. Here's a bit more of what we learned. Some Americans are protesting the war in Iran and President Trump's domestic policies by putting their money where their mouth is as part of a call to sit out of paying federal taxes this year.
I'm Rachel, and I'm not paying my federal income tax this year.
It's time that we stop paying our taxes.
Tax Strike 2026. Spread the word.
On social media, people saying they'd rather put the money into a savings account, donate it to a charity, or simply keep it for themselves. Anything instead of handing it over to the federal government. It's called war tax resistance, a type of protest that's been around in some form since the colonial era, spiking around the Vietnam War when folk singer Joan Baez famously refused to pay 60% of her taxes, reportedly leading the IRS to file a lien against her. Lawyers and accountants say following in her footsteps could land you in big trouble, but advocates say interest is now surging again.
Before the invasion of Gaza, we would typically have 40,000 unique users visit our site on an annual basis. This past January, we had the most visits to our website that we've ever had, over 110,000 unique users.
Lincoln Rice leads the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee. The anti-war group has been around since the early 80s. It just recently held its largest ever training on just how to resist.
We offer War Tax Resistance 101 trainings. It'll cover the legal method, which would be essentially putting yourself in such a position as not to owe taxes.
The IRS tells us measuring the size and scope of this type of protest is not feasible only a month into the war. For some, it might mean pulling legal levers to lower their tax bill. For others, it goes a step further.
Essentially, we're going to strike. We're striking on taxes.
Neetu Sharma says she decided this year to stop withholding federal taxes from her paycheck.
Resisting is a privilege, and not everyone can resist in the same way. So having options and still being able to take action was great.
Her reason, she says, is where her tax dollars are going, even before the war with Iran started.
We were sending a lot of funding and arms to other countries instead of taking care of the people at home.
While it's impossible to track exactly where your individual tax dollars go, last fiscal year, the Treasury says the federal government collected about half of its revenue from individual income taxes. About $900 billion went to defense, according to the Office of Management and Budget. It's the government's fifth biggest expense behind other big-ticket items like Social Security, Medicare, interest on the national debt, and other health spending. Sharma says her protest isn't about avoiding taxes altogether.
I'm still paying state taxes, and I believe state taxes are something that we should continue paying.
Are you worried at all about going to jail, potentially?
I was at a point. The IRS does not have the manpower to go out and, audit every single person and look at who's not paying federal taxes.
Sharma believes her approach is legal, but experts say not paying the taxes you owe is anything but.
The law does not care what your motive is for either not filing, not paying your taxes.
The IRS and legal experts say avoiding your taxes could land you with a laundry list of penalties, including fees, getting your passport revoked, and in some cases, jail time.
If you were to offer any sort of legal advice to some of these protesters, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, push a candle through a paper plate and go to a vigil and sing. Don't refuse to pay your taxes. That will land you in prison.
So as this protest gains traction online, the real consequences may happen offline when taxes are due.
And as you just heard, the big thing those legal experts stress to us is motivation does not matter. Even if you're protesting, if you're not paying those taxes, you could still face those penalties, including possible criminal charges.
All right. Fascinating, Allie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, a Hawaii doctor now faces up to 2 decades in prison for trying to kill his wife while on a hike for her birthday. After 8 hours of deliberations, a jury unanimously found him guilty of attempted manslaughter. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the latest details from court. Liz, good morning.
Well, hey there. Yeah, we have just learned a Hawaii jury has chosen to convict Dr. Gerhard Koenig of attempted manslaughter based on extreme mental or emotional disturbance. This is a charge that can come with up to 20 years in prison. And as the law clerk read the verdict, the Maui anesthesiologist, he looked really emotional. He was putting his head in his hand. At one point, he grabbed tissues to wipe away tears. It all comes after more than 2 weeks of dramatic testimony where his wife, Ariel, described how she believed her husband, Dr. Koenig, outraged over an emotional affair she was having with a coworker, tried to push her off a cliff before trying to inject her with a syringe and beating her with a rock. Body camera footage was shown during the trial showing the moment that 2 hikers said that they intervened after hearing Ariel's screams. Dr. Koenig himself, though, testified, telling the jury a different version of events. He argued this was self-defense, saying he only attacked his wife after she attempted to kill him. But one of the most explosive moments came from Koenig's own son, who testified that his father seemingly confessed to trying to kill his stepmom during a FaceTime call after the attack. Koenig said his son misunderstood him during that trial, or during that call, I should say, but ultimately it was the jury that had to decide which version of events to believe. They deliberated for about 8 hours, and while they did not find him guilty on the higher charge of second-degree attempted murder, which would have come with a potential life sentence, they did charge him with that attempted manslaughter, and a judge has set his sentencing for August. Back to you.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you.
We are following new details on a massive warehouse fire in California. Police now say a disgruntled employee is under arrest. New video appears to show someone deliberately setting that fire inside a Kimberly-Clark facility east of Los Angeles. Happened early Tuesday. A voice can be heard saying, quote, "All you had to do was pay us enough to live." NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin has more.
Police say this massive warehouse fire was allegedly the work of a disgruntled employee. Stunning new video appears to show the start of the fire. In the footage posted to social media, you hear someone say, "All you had to do was pay us enough to live," as stacks of toilet paper burn.
All you had to do was pay us enough to live. There goes your inventory.
Police announced the arrest of Chamil Abdul Karim on suspicion of multiple felony arson-related charges, adding the 29-year-old is an employee of NFI Industries, a third-party distributor for Kimberly-Clark, the company known for manufacturing paper-based personal care and hygiene products.
We can confirm that he was on scene of the fire at the time that it started, yes.
In a statement, police say they can't comment on specifics, but are aware of this video, adding they will be utilizing any evidence for the investigation. In Ontario, California, flames shot up in back of nearby homes as the fire tore through the approximately 1 million square foot warehouse.
Definitely was uncharacteristic fire. It definitely pushed our firefighters into that defensive operation, and that was one indication that it could possibly be an arson of nature.
In a statement, Kimberly-Clark said no one was injured and all workers were safely evacuated. Karim has yet to be formally charged and is being held without bail. Aaron McLaughlin, NBC News.
Let's get to weather now. Spring still has not sprung on the East Coast with another day of below average temps from North Carolina to New York. We've got the details in your forecast.
Or did it spring like 3-4 weeks ago?
Then unsprung.
As they call it, fool's spring. What can I say? It's little by little going to improve, guys. We've got really one more day of kind of chilly conditions across parts of the Northeast, at least cooler than they should be for this time of year, before we do see spring potentially try to stick around. Here's what we've got right now. This area of high pressure is bringing in this cool air, and it's kind of ushering it right into the East Coast. So no surprise that we're waking up to frost advisories and freeze warnings across much of this region. We've got Charlotte to Washington, D.C., and stretching into Philadelphia included in those. Some of these coldest lows are going to be down into the 20s, but you can see right now we're mostly hanging out into those 30s. Philadelphia, 32 degrees right now. We've got 36 this morning in New York City, 30s in Richmond, Roanoke, Washington, D.C. These, of course, are below where they should be. On the other side of this, we look a little farther to the south, and we've got an area of high pressure that's ushering in warmer air and really making a difference in those afternoon temperatures across parts of the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and the Plains. We've got 70s and 80s on tap for a lot of spots. Even the farthest north you go, places like Detroit and Chicago, still going to get into those upper 60s. So those locations, you're going to be feeling a lot better today. If you live on the East Coast, tomorrow is really your day, specifically across the Northeast, where you're going to see that big difference in temperatures and will finally be above normal. So New York City, 66 degrees, 75 in Washington, D.C. You get the picture. Also good news, our friends in Florida, they're going to start to see things kind of winding down a little bit. We're going to still see some of that rain in the picture for the Sunshine State today. That kind of unsettled weather continues. But then tomorrow, we'll start to see some drier conditions kind of settling in, although the rip current risk not going anywhere anytime soon. So heads up if you plan to head to the beaches. Again, spring break week, a lot of folks in the water, especially if they finally get some dry time. So be careful of that and watch for those flags. Otherwise, maybe another inch or so in some of the highest locations, like closer to the Space Coast. As we look ahead to the weekend, there's your Friday. Great conditions on the East Coast, lots of sunshine. We will have some stronger storms in the middle of the country as we get into the weekend, and some really unsettled conditions out west, too. Some additional snow for our friends across the Sierra range.
Sure, they're thrilled.
But at least they have some spring skiing. You know, when I put on my coat this morning, I'm just going to work. I don't want to wear my coat anymore.
There you go. Optimist. I like that. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you.
So weather's not the only reason we're keeping an eye on the skies for this weekend. The crew of Artemis 2 racing through space, making its way back toward Earth. You can see here the view from the Orion capsule. That was this morning. That white sliver may look like what we think of on Earth as the moon in a crescent phase. That's our planet. The capsule currently a little more than 150,000 miles from Earth. is expected to splash down off the California coast tomorrow evening.
Yeah, the return trip comes after the 4 astronauts traveled further from Earth than anyone has ever gone before. They became the first humans ever to see so much of the far side of the moon with the naked eye. Their view is captured in these incredible images shared by NASA. Overnight, we heard from the crew in a rare deep space news conference where they reflected on this historic lunar flyby.
And to look down on it from so close was, or over at it from so close was just, it was hard to describe.
What we really hoped in our soul is that we could, for just a moment, have the world pause and remember that this is a beautiful planet in a very special place in our universe, and we should all cherish what we have been gifted.
I love that from their viewpoint, the Earth looks like how we think of the moon. We used to, when I was young, we called that Grandpa's toenail. My grandpa passed away when I was young, so we always looked up and we saw Grandpa's toenail on the moon. So now from the moon, they're seeing Grandpa's toenail.
Oh my goodness. And just so neat, them naming some of these craters that they see. It's just incredible. And to finally have images like that of the moon versus the Apollo footage.
And more to come.
Yes, exactly.
All right, much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, back in court, Sean Diddy Combs challenging his conviction for those prostitution-related charges, while lawyers for the hip-hop mogul argue the First Amendment should have protected him.
But at first, after the break, a stunning confession in a series of killings that haunted a community for years. More on the plea deal for the accused Gilgo Beach killer next. We'll be right back. We are back with a stunning courtroom confession in one of the country's most infamous cases. Yesterday, here in New York, Rex Heuermann pleaded guilty to murdering 7 women and then admitted he intentionally caused the death of an 8th, finally bringing answers to a case that haunted Long Island for more than a decade. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has more.
Wearing a black suit and white button-up, the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer making a stunning admission before a packed courtroom.
Are you pleading guilty voluntarily and of your own free will? Yes.
62-year-old Rex Heuermann pled guilty to the murders of 7 women and admitted to an uncharged 8th killing of Karen Vergata, all strangled and dumped in remote parts of Long Island from 1993 to 2010. Long-awaited answers for victims' families.
Through every year, every setback, every unanswered question, I carried you with me, and I kept that promise. And today, it has been done.
Investigators cracked the case through cell phone data and DNA from a trashed pizza crust, arresting Heuermann in 2023. At his Massapequa Park home, investigators found nearly 280 guns, magazines covering the Gilgo Beach murders, and a disturbing document to plan out his kills. His attorney called the guilty plea a relief for Heuermann.
He certainly wanted to save the families of the victims the ordeal of going to trial, and coupled with saving his family that ordeal.
His now ex-wife and daughter, who were at court, are the targets of a wrongful death lawsuit alleging they must have known what was happening. Their attorney says they had no knowledge or connection to the crimes.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable.
Our thanks to Emily Ikeda for that report. Rex Heuermann is expected to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. He has also agreed to cooperate with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. His sentencing is set for June 17th.
Lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs are set to challenge his conviction and prison sentence in a federal appeals court today. They're going to try to convince a panel of judges that the hip-hop mogul was treated unfairly during his trial and his sentencing.
His lawyers also claim that some of what Combs was accused of should have been protected by the First Amendment. Combs was found guilty of prostitution-related charges and has been in prison since his arrest in 2024.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is here to preview the hearing and any potential outcomes. Danny, good to have you with us. So Combs is not going to be there. This should last about 2 hours. What's the First Amendment argument here his team is making?
The First Amendment argument may be his weakest argument, and I say that because he's got some strong ones still. It's always an uphill battle at appeal. His First Amendment argument is essentially he was making homemade pornography. And that is something that should be protected by the First Amendment, highlighting really what has always been a very gray area between people who just happen to want to exchange money to have sex versus what is prostitution. So it really goes to the core of not only the First Amendment, but how do we define legally prostitution?
So the federal prosecutors, they claim that the sentence is appropriate for his charges. They say it's not a free speech issue. I mean, how strong would you say his his appeal case is.
Normally when you're appealing, you first say, hey, court, overturn my conviction. But if you're not, take a look at my sentence. They've done this in the reverse because I think their strongest argument is sentencing. I'm going to tell you something that will probably surprise everyone out there, which is until last year, you could go to trial in a federal case, get acquitted of some charges and convicted of others, and then you get to sentencing, and guess what? They can use that acquitted conduct against you. You went through all this, you won, you're acquitted, and now the judge is considering that in fashioning your sentence. Well, last year, the Sentencing Commission changed that rule, and now what the defense is arguing is that, look, judge, you got it wrong. Well, they're arguing to the Second Circuit. The district judge got this wrong. He considered that acquitted conduct when fashioning his sentence.
It's interesting because right now he's scheduled to be released 2 years from now, April 2028. I remember there was a point where after the verdict came out, we thought he might not serve any time at all, but he did end up getting a sentence. What's the likely outcome here?
Well, keep in mind, just as you pointed out, this is a kind of expedited appeal in the sense that his sentence is not that long. He's going to be out relatively soon. And look, if you're Diddy Combs, you have the money to pay lawyers to make this an expedited appeal and make that difference between months where most ordinary mortals would say, hey, it's not worth paying all that much for an appeal. But he's got an outside chance. Look, anytime you're appealing, so much deference is given to the jury and to the judge who fashioned the sentence. But these are some very interesting legal arguments.
All right. Danny Ceballos, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Well, coming up on Morning News Now, pouch pushback, a new initiative taking aim at a popular nicotine product.
These products don't make your life less stressful. They actually add stress. They can add anxiety. They can add depression once you're addicted to them.
When we come back, more on the ad campaign meant to keep young people from picking up a dangerous habit. Stay with us.
We are back with details about a first-of-its-kind campaign aimed at curbing teen use of smokeless nicotine products.
It's coming from an advocacy group that created powerful campaigns in the past with a big impact. NBC News medical reporter Dr. Akshay Sayal joins us now with more on this. Dr. Sayal, fascinating story.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Nicotine pouches are exploding in popularity, especially among young adults who think they're a safer alternative to smoking. But now a new national campaign is taking aim at these products in an effort to tell young people that these tiny pouches might actually pack a lot of harm.
Remember this anti-smoking ad?
How many people tobacco kills every day?
The group behind this iconic body bag commercial.
1,200 people.
And others like it, which aired along with a massive drop in cigarette smoking in teens and young adults in the early 2000s, has a new campaign.
Focus.
Aimed at nicotine pouches.
Using nicotine to relieve stress might just make you feel worse.
Why did you guys feel it necessary to add on the nicotine pouches to the campaign?
We really felt like we've seen a rapid increase in use of nicotine pouches. In fact, sales of nicotine pouches have tripled in the last 2 years alone.
That's Truth Initiative CEO Kathy Crosby telling us in an exclusive interview who they're targeting.
We're trying to help primarily young men understand is that these products don't make your life less stressful. They actually add stress. They can add anxiety. They can add depression once you're addicted to them.
Young men like Ryan Price.
It was supposed to be a step to getting off of nicotine completely.
The 26-year-old from Iowa started vaping about 5 years ago. That led to using pouches and even cigarettes.
One hit in a bar in college led me to darn near 3-4 years.
He says he liked the pouches because they're flavored, smokeless, and easy to hide. And many young people think they're safe, with Philip Morris saying it shipped nearly 800 million cans last year. But even using nicotine without tobacco can be harmful to the developing brain, causing problems with attention, learning, and impulse control. The pouches are also linked to side effects, including nausea, gum inflammation, mouth irritation, and can be dangerous for the heart. We reached out to Philip Morris, the maker of Zyn, and Altria, a competitor, for comment and have not yet heard back.
It's time to find your Zyn.
Philip Morris has previously said its marketing is directed at legal age nicotine users who are 21 and over, and Altria's homepage highlights, quote, moving beyond smoking.
We permit no smoking in the seating bowl nor in the restroom.
Many factors led to the drastic decline in smoking starting 30 years ago, from a major tobacco lawsuit and settlement as its ties to lung cancer became clear.
This is an all non-smoking flight.
To new laws banning smoking in some public places, to initiatives like Truth, battling decades of tobacco's cultural dominance. More than a third of youth smoked in 1997, and less than 5% do now. but vapes and pouches are increasingly popular. Truth's new string of ads are part of its Outsmart nicotine push, focusing on users of multiple nicotine products and promoting a digital tool they say can help people quit.
If we can get them into the program, they're 4 times more likely to be able to have a successful quit.
Price now partners with Truth on the campaign.
I think everybody knows a little bit of support can go a long way, especially if it comes from the right source.
An initiative with a track record, taking on a new generation's addiction.
Such an important topic, Dr. Sayal. I think parents might be watching this, maybe not even realize what that little thing is if they've ever seen it around their teens. How can they tell maybe or have a conversation with their teens if they're using these?
So, the best way is really to be upfront and to talk to your teen about it. But there are some signs and symptoms you can watch for as a parent. Changes in mood, irritability, restlessness, dizziness, headaches, nausea. These are all things that are associated with nicotine use. But, I think the biggest one to really watch out for is, are they starting to cancel social plans? Are they saying, no, I don't want to have dinner with you. I don't want to go out with my friends. I don't want to go to parties. I just want to sit at home, sit in my room. That usually is a clue that there's something else more going on.
The folks at Truth, have they noticed, we've been discussing how just it feels like anecdotally, we're seeing more people, younger people, smoking old-fashioned cigarettes. We're seeing it more in movies and TV shows, on Broadway shows. Is that a concern too?
It is, and just like measles, not something I thought we'd be talking about in 2026, but it's made such a resurgence in pop culture, and we know how influential these things can be. So, another big thing to watch for.
Yeah, it does feel like we've seen it represented a lot in movies and shows lately. Dr. Sayal, thank you. Great report.
Anytime.
Coming up, continuing coverage on the war with Iran. Up next, we're going to take you back to the Mideast for the latest on the fragile 2-week ceasefire.
Also cutting back, Disney reportedly getting ready to lay off hundreds of employees. What we are learning next in our Money Minute. This is Morning News Now.
We are back now with more on our top story, that fragile ceasefire between the U.S., Iran, and Israel. Israel continues to bombard Lebanon with strikes against the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah ahead of those diplomatic talks expected in Pakistan this weekend.
This morning, it doesn't appear that the critical Strait of Hormuz has reopened, despite the U.S. claiming increased traffic. As President Trump says, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel will stay in the region until a real agreement is reached and, quote, fully complied with.
NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning. Let's start with you. What has become the center of this conflict at this point? How is Israel threatening this delicate ceasefire with their ongoing strikes on Lebanon?
Well, it all comes down to a misunderstanding, and that's what J.D. Vance, the vice president, was saying. The misunderstanding that Lebanon was in that ceasefire agreement. Now, the Pakistani prime minister had announced that Lebanon would be part of it, and that Israel, to comply with the treaty, would have to stop attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now, right after that, we heard Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, saying, no, Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire deal, and therefore Israel can proceed in its war. And to put that point more clearly, Israel launched what it is describing as its most powerful attack against Hezbollah ever since this war began in the past 6 weeks. So the situation there isn't just causing friction over the border, it's also causing this deal to become even shakier. The Iranians have said that they are going to not open the Strait of Hormuz. They're not going to lift their blockade as long as the Israelis continue to attack Lebanon. This is a real crisis for a hard-won treaty that a lot of folks here and throughout the region have really been celebrating and hoping brings some reprieve.
And Matt, let's talk about these peace talks expected to be between the U.S. and Iran in Pakistan. What do we know about both countries' priorities? Who is leading the talks on both sides? What info do we have?
Well, for the U.S., it's unclear, as always, exactly what the priorities are going to be. We've been hearing some scattershot different explanations. One of the most interesting that we've been hearing is kind of what I've been calling the battle of the bullet points. President Trump put forward 15 points for his treaty. The Iranians answered with 10 points for theirs. We heard from Caroline Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, last night saying that 10-point treaty by the Iranians was unreasonable. We heard and then it was tossed out. Then we heard from J.D. Vance, the vice president, saying that there were multiple versions of that 10-point treaty that have been circulating, and the one that the Americans are working with is the most viable and the one on which they're going to be basing negotiations going forward. What we haven't seen is any version of those actual 10-point plans other than the one that the Iranians revealed. So it's unclear exactly what the documents are that the U.S. is going to be working off of in these negotiations, and that really is going to dictate where this all goes.
All right, Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Matt, thank you.
Let's get you some money news now here at home. Disney is getting ready to make some sizable layoffs in the coming weeks.
NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal is back with your Money Minute. Good morning, Allie.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. The company is planning to lay off 1,000 workers. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. And the layoffs, they appear to be concentrated in marketing. It's one of the first big moves under new CEO Josh D'Amaro as Disney looks to boost profits in a tougher streaming and box office environment. NBC News has reached out for comment. And over in the cargo space, FedEx has reached a tentative deal with the Airline Pilots Association, the union which represents FedEx pilots. This comes after nearly 5 years of negotiations. The agreement includes roughly 40% pay raises this year, followed by annual increases. It's a major step toward ending a long-running labor dispute. And finally, a sweet expansion for a classic treat. Dippin' Dots, that beat-it ice cream you all grew up with, is heading into grocery stores nationwide this spring, including retailers like Walmart. Previously, Dippin' Dot lovers could only purchase the ice cream online or at special events like baseball games or at the movies, but the company is now rolling out multi-packs and new flavors in the freezer aisle as it looks to turn that novelty treat into an everyday buy. And I didn't realize this, but Dippin' Dots has to be kept super, super cold, which is why you can only get the ice cream at those events. So now with the new multi-packs, they're saying you still want to enjoy it pretty quickly or else they'll start to lose their shape and melt a little bit because standard freezers, they're not at those sub-zero temperatures.
Or buy the new Dippin' Dots freezer on sale now for a mere $2,000.
I mean, listen, if you love Dippin' Dots, maybe that's a good investment.
Interesting. That seems like it's not going to work at home if that's what they need.
They seem to have figured out the technology at this point. It's a long time coming. I think people are desperate for Dippin' Dots.
I do like them.
I do too.
Very
on the boardwalk.
Thing.
Summer's coming.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Thanks, Allie. Coming up on Morning News Now, a little boy flying high thanks to a plane full of strangers.
He felt recognized, like he was excited, you know.
And he even said, he's like, I'm strong. They're talking about me. I'm strong.
When we return, the heartwarming surprise for this brave young cancer survivor. You are watching Morning News Now. We end this hour on a heartwarming note. After the fight of his life, a 2-year-old boy named Cruz is now cancer-free and heading home.
Marking the moment at 30,000 feet in the air as strangers rallied around him with notes of hope and encouragement, turning his journey into an unforgettable celebration filled with cheers and kindness. Nightly News anchor Tom Yamas has more.
Today we do have a very special passenger on board today.
It wasn't your typical pre-flight announcement. A Southwest flight crew celebrating a very special 2-year-old named Cruz.
He has been battling a very rare form of cancer. He is now officially cancer-free.
The journey to this moment starting well before this flight. Last year, Cruz was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. His family traveling from San Diego to New York City for months of treatment.
He is now officially cancer-free.
Finally headed home, the flight crew urging everyone on board to mark the moment.
We would love it if you guys would be willing to write any words of encouragement.
Passenger after passenger passing notes on napkins filled with words of congratulations and hope. You did it, Cruz. Congrats, you are so strong. Way to fight.
The emotions kind of all hit at that moment.
It was a long journey.
Mom, Elisa, and Dad, Miguel, say it was a gesture of kindness they'll never forget.
He felt recognized, like he was excited, you know.
And he even said, he's like, I'm strong. They're talking about me. I'm strong.
That strength carrying Cruz through one of life's toughest battles, now ready for takeoff into a brighter future.
He is now officially cancer-free.
Tom Yamas, NBC News.
Could he be cuter?
The cocktail napkins were a nice touch. I can envision like an art project,
Totally.
a
Frame
collage,
those
something
or make
like
a
that.
book. Oh my goodness,
Exactly.
so sweet to get everybody on that plane involved.
Congrats to Cruz.
He deserves it.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, under siege, a 2-week ceasefire deal already tested in the Middle East. Iran accusing Israel of breaking the truce after reportedly killing hundreds in Lebanon. Well, the Strait of Hormuz still looks like it's siphoned off. Only 5 ships passing through that vital oil pipeline on the first day of the ceasefire. It's all got the Trump administration scrambling to save face ahead of those crucial peace talks in Pakistan this weekend. We've got the latest in a moment. Justice for the family of Matthew Perry, the so-called ketamine queen connected to the beloved actor's overdose death, sentenced to 15 years in prison. Her emotional message to an LA courtroom, why all the legal drama surrounding this Hollywood tragedy is not over yet. Plus, trust your gut. We are diving into the importance of keeping up healthy habits in the restroom, why one doctor says you've actually been pooping all wrong. Yes, it's a taboo topic, but don't worry, we'll make it a little more digestible. And he's the commuter crooner going from subway station star in New York to Oscar standout in Hollywood. His amazing story later in the hour. Maybe a little singing. We'll have to wait and see.
Everybody's awake now.
Exactly.
With that other story.
There you go. We've got a little bit of everything for you this morning. Begin this hour with the latest out of the Middle East. Israel's ongoing strikes on Lebanon are threatening that delicate 2-week ceasefire deal between the U.S., Israel, and Iran.
This morning, there's little sign the Strait of Hormuz has been fully reopened. Only 5 ships crossed that critical passageway on the first day of the ceasefire. That's according to Kepler, a data and analytics firm. Well, get this, before the war with Iran started, that was nearly 6 weeks ago, about 110 ships crossed that strait each day. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us from Tel Aviv, Israel, with more. Matt, good morning.
Well, here in Israel, there's relief that ceasefire may have brought a reprieve from some of those constant bombings, but the whole thing is hanging on by a thread, with escalating threats from all sides. This morning, explosions in the Middle East threatening a fragile ceasefire. As tensions play out across the region, the key sticking point is now Lebanon, which Israel has been repeatedly bombing, targeting the Iran-backed group Hezbollah.
We just hear explosions, like 3, 4, 5 explosions.
Yesterday, Israeli strikes killing at least 250 people, according to Lebanon's Ministry of Health, who says more than 1,500 have been killed since the latest fighting began. While Hezbollah has launched hundreds of rockets into Israel in support of Iran. Iran says the new Israeli strikes are a violation of the ceasefire. But Israel's prime minister insisting, quote, the temporary ceasefire with Iran will not include Hezbollah, and we will continue to hit it hard. The U.S. agreeing.
I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't.
But Iran's foreign minister saying, quote, the U.S. must choose ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. With control of the Strait of Hormuz in the balance, Iran continuing to restrict traffic there, which has been driving up global oil prices, saying it may have put anti-shipping mines in the strait and recommending alternative routes as the world waits to see if the ceasefire lasts. And those Israeli strikes on Lebanon are continuing this morning. Lebanese state media is saying that 10 people were killed in Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Vice President J.D. Vance will lead the U.S. delegation for those peace talks expected between the U.S. and Iran in Pakistan. The talks are set to begin in Islamabad on Saturday morning. Vance will be joined by the president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner. For the latest on this, let's bring in NBC News senior White House correspondent, Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, good morning.
The vice president returning from an overseas trip to Hungary overnight. He's now set to head to Pakistan for in-person peace talks on Saturday. Meanwhile, the White House is insisting that what Iran is telling the U.S. privately is different than its public statements. This morning, a new warning from President Trump over the shaky ceasefire with Iran. The president posting that the U.S. military will remain in Iran, quote, until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with, adding that if it's not, then, quote, shooting starts, bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. The post coming as the Trump administration is scrambling to hold the Iran ceasefire together.
No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness.
Vice President J.D. Vance is preparing to lead an American delegation in Pakistan this weekend for critical in-person peace talks. And he's set to face major headwinds from Iran over that claim that the U.S. and Israel have already violated the deal. The president also saying in his overnight post, quote, it was agreed a long time ago no nuclear weapons and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. While both of those points could face resistance with the status of the strait unclear, Also uncertain, the question of whether Iran will give up its enriched uranium that experts say could be used to develop a small number of nuclear bombs.
On the uranium, we're watching it. We know what they have, and they will give it up, and we'll get it, and we'll take it.
But Iran disputes that was part of the ceasefire agreement, which came just hours after President Trump drew worldwide backlash for threatening that a whole civilization would die if there was no deal.
Why is it appropriate for the President of the United States to use that kind of language when talking about civilian targets?
Well, I understand the questions about the president's rhetoric, but what the president cares most about is results.
According to a U.S. official familiar with the operations, there have been 381 U.S. service members who have been wounded since the beginning of Operation Epic Fury. Of those, about 90% have returned to duty. The Pentagon says 13 service members have been killed.
All right, Gabe, thank you.
For more on these upcoming negotiations in Islamabad, let's bring in Elise Labit. She's the author of the newsletter Cosmopolitics. On Substack, she writes about America's role in the world and global policy debates. Elise, thank you as always for being with us. So you wrote there yesterday on Cosmopolitics, you said the ceasefire buys time. It does not resolve the underlying conflict. Walk us through that, the risks of a negotiation where both sides appear to be going in with totally different interpretations of what the terms are and obviously different goals.
It's really hard, guys, because, you know, both Iran and the U.S. are saying completely different things. And, you know, the president is saying that the Iranians agreed to a lot of things like giving up their enriched uranium, that the Iranians are never going to agree to until there's a full agreement, not part of a ceasefire. That's what these negotiations are taking place. And the issue of Lebanon, as we see, the sides already have differing opinions of what this ceasefire entails. Right now, I don't see a ceasefire really in place. There's not heavy shooting, but the Israelis are still going after Lebanon and the Strait's not open. So while there may be a lessening in fighting, there doesn't really seem to be a ceasefire. And that puts these negotiations really makes them even more fragile because the two sides are going in when things are already kind of falling apart.
Elise, we want to play something Vice President Vance said yesterday about what the U.S. has achieved so far in Iran. Then we'll talk on the other side.
The United States accomplished its military objectives. What we know is the United States could have imposed significant additional military and economic costs on Iran and still has the capacity to do so. But we thankfully at this point, I think, have a ceasefire thanks to the leadership of the President of the United States. We have the Iranians promising to open the Straits of Hormuz, and we have a negotiation that's supposed to start this weekend. We're going to see if we can make more progress here in the days to come.
So, Elise, would you agree? Is the U.S. going into these talks having accomplished its primary goals in Iran?
Well, I think it's difficult because we really never knew what those objectives were. They changed all the time. First, it was, you know, to help the Iranian people. Then it was to go after military targets and the nuclear program. And now it's to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and the Strait of Hormuz was not closed before the war. I think the U.S. undoubtedly has made significant military gains in Iran, going after the missile programs, going after some of the nuclear facilities. Israel has gone after the leadership. Iran's weapons capability, if you will, is really degraded. But Iran really isn't fighting a conventional war. It's fighting what they call an asymmetrical war. So it's using drones, it's using cheap, low-tech weapons, and also it's using this economic strangling of the global economy through the Strait of Hormuz. I think the administration has gone after some of those goals and achieved them, like the Navy, the Air Force, but that nuclear program is really still, if not, you know, like it was before. They have degraded some of the facilities, but you still have that enriched uranium. And you can't really say that you've eliminated the nuclear threat until you get that enriched uranium. I don't see Iran giving it up without some major concessions from the U.S. We're hearing a lot from the U.S. about what they want the Iranians to do. We're not really hearing what the U.S. is prepared to do.
Elise, Vice President Vance, we heard him also describe President Trump yesterday. He said he's impatient to make progress. Then we also had the president posting on Truth Social saying that the military is looking forward to its next conquest. Kind of like a few clues here that it feels like the administration is almost just ready to move on from this conflict. What do you think that means, especially with the backdrop of these talks?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that the president wants to get out. And I think the big fear is that he's going to leave this war the way he went in, which is without some kind of strategic objective, without having a conversation about the risks. If he leaves right now without the Strait of Hormuz being open, or if the U.S. leaves with Iran kind of having this toll booth over the Strait of Hormuz, you have to wonder what we really got from this war. I'll be happy if we get out of this war at the status quo at this point before we got in. If, economic analysts are saying, I don't see how President Trump can leave with these conditions that Iran is imposing on the Strait of Hormuz. But it is pretty clear that the president wants to move on. I don't know if it's about the next conquest, although I'm pretty confident there will be a next conquest, but I think it's mostly, guys, about the oil prices, inflation, and the upcoming election.
All right, Elise Labott, thank you so much.
We are following a major development in the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. The woman known as the ketamine queen was sentenced yesterday in Los Angeles for supplying the drug that caused Perry's fatal overdose back in 2023. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal has the very latest. Camila, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. This was not an easy hearing for the family who sat together in the front row. Keith Morrison, Perry's stepfather, spoke for part of the family, saying they feel a daily grinding sadness and sorrow, and addressing Jasmine Singha directly, saying she supplied an addict.
This morning, a measure of justice and closure for the family of beloved actor Matthew Perry. Jasmine Singha, the Los Angeles woman who illegally sold the ketamine that killed Perry, was sentenced Wednesday to 180 months, 15 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release.
I want to hug you.
Perry, who played the affable Chandler Bing on Friends, died from the acute effects of ketamine and was found unresponsive in his hot tub in 2023. In 2025, Singha pleaded guilty to 5 federal charges connected with Perry's overdose, including distribution of ketamine, resulting in death and serious bodily injury to Mr. Perry. Court documents describe Singha as a high-volume drug dealer who marketed herself as an exclusive dealer who catered to high-profile Hollywood clientele. All 5 defendants associated with Perry's death have pleaded guilty, but Singha's 15-year sentence likely to be the most severe. The judge justifying her sentencing, saying, "I do find that you're probably one of the most culpable defendants." Perry's stepmother, Debbie, was the first to address Singha Wednesday. "The pain you caused to hundreds, maybe thousands, is irreversible. There is no joy, no light," she said. In court, Singha, in a light jumpsuit, was emotional at times and chose to address the courtroom. "My poor choices, addiction, led me here. I take full responsibility." Outside of court, defense attorney Mark Garagos calling the sentencing absurd and saying he was bitterly disappointed.
There's no way that Jasmine is 5 times more culpable than the person who injected Matthew Perry with the drug or the doctor who got the drug.
After the hearing, the family making it clear there were no winners.
We miss Matthew dreadfully, of course, and I feel bad for the family of the perpetrator here as well. Nobody won today.
And Keith described his stepson as a brilliant and funny man, saying there should have been another act, maybe 2. The family is still waiting for 2 others to be sentenced, including Perry's personal assistant. That hearing later this month is likely going to be another difficult day for the family, as he was the closest to them among all the people involved. Joe?
No doubt. All right, Camila, thank you.
Well, the husband of a missing American woman in the Bahamas is now in custody. Authorities arrested Brian Hooker in connection with his wife's disappearance. She's been missing for at least 5 days after Hooker said she fell overboard while they were sailing. He denies any wrongdoing. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the latest from the Bahamas for us. George, good morning.
Authorities now calling this a criminal investigation. A lawyer for the husband confirming to us overnight that Brian Hooker has been arrested in connection with the disappearance of his wife, Lynette. And it comes after we spoke with the missing woman's daughter, who is raising questions about the relationship between her mother and stepfather. This morning, an arrest following the desperate search for a missing American woman, 55-year-old Lynette Hooker, who vanished at sea 5 days ago. Overnight, a lawyer for her husband, Brian Hooker, confirming that he was arrested by the Royal Bahamas Police Force, saying Mr. Hooker categorically and unequivocally denies any wrongdoing, adding he has been cooperating with the relevant authorities as part of an ongoing investigation. Earlier, authorities in the Bahamas saying the arrest is related to the disappearance of a female who was reported missing from an 8-foot hard-bottom dinghy. The U.S. Coast Guard confirming they're also conducting a criminal investigation into the disappearance of Ms. Hooker. Pretty cool. The couple were avid sailors documenting their travels on social media. According to investigators, Lynette went missing over the weekend. Brian Hooker telling authorities she fell overboard their small boat and was swept away by strong currents, taking the boat's only key with her, forcing him to paddle miles back to shore for help. Lynette's daughter, Carly Aylesworth, raising questions, telling NBC News her mother was a fit person and experienced sailor who was unlikely to just fall overboard. She also alleged the relationship between her mother and stepdad Brian could be unstable.
They have a history of not getting along.
Carly says when her stepdad first broke the news to her, he sounded monotone and relaxed. She also shared a voicemail she says he left her after her mother's disappearance.
They have found a flotation device that I threw to Mom when she fell overboard, and so they haven't found her yet, but they can now focus all of their efforts in a smaller area.
Brian Hooker's lawyer also saying in a statement to NBC News that his client denies all of the allegations raised by his stepdaughter. In his own statement posted on Facebook, Brian Hooker says he's heartbroken, adding, despite desperate attempts to reach her, the winds and currents drove us further apart. We continue to search for her, and that is my sole focus. Lynette's daughter pleading with the public for any details that may lead to her mother's return.
My family could use all the support right now and getting information.
Worth noting at this time, there have been no updates from police. Also worth noting that Brian Hooker's attorney, again saying he vehemently denies all of the allegations raised by his stepdaughter, saying Brian Hooker will be providing no further comments at this time. Back to you.
All right, George, thank you.
A Hawaii doctor faces up to 20 years in prison after he was found guilty of trying to kill his wife while they were on a birthday hike last year. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the latest from court. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Well, the jury did find Dr. Gerhard Koenig guilty of attempted manslaughter. They did not convict him of the more serious charge, second-degree attempted murder, which carried a potential life sentence. This morning, we're hearing from the jury foreperson who explains what led to their decision.
We, the jury in this case, finds the defendant guilty.
This morning, a guilty verdict in the case of Hawaii doctor Gerhard Koenig, a jury convicting the Maui anesthesiologist of attempted manslaughter based on extreme mental or emotional disturbance for trying to kill his wife Ariel on her birthday. He faces up to 20 years in prison when he's sentenced.
Dr. Koenig, the verdict of the jury is indeed unanimous.
The 47-year-old appearing emotional as the verdict was read.
We hope that the verdict today brings Ariel the next step into closure.
But the defense vowing the fight isn't over.
We look forward to an appeal.
The jury of 7 women and 5 men deliberating for about 8 hours. The foreperson telling NBC News why they ultimately chose not to convict Koenig of the most serious charge, second-degree attempted murder.
We felt that with the language presented in our instructions that the definition of attempted murder was not fully met by the evidence shown.
The case centered around a violent altercation last year at the top of this scenic hiking trail in Oahu. Prosecutors alleging Dr. Koenig, outraged by his wife's so-called emotional affair with a coworker, tried to push her off this steep cliff, attempted to inject her with a syringe, and bashed her head repeatedly with a rock. This body camera footage showed during the trial shows the moment 2 hikers said they intervened after hearing Ariel's screams.
I'm screaming and he's telling me, shut the up. Nobody's going to hear you out here. Nobody's coming to save you.
But Dr. Koenig told the jury a different version of events, saying it was actually Ariel that initially attacked him.
When you hit her with the rock twice, why did you do it?
In self-defense.
One of the most explosive moments of the trial came when Koenig's own 20-year-old son testified he believed his father was trying to kill his stepmom.
Is there any doubt in your mind about the defendant telling you who tried to kill Ariel?
No.
But the foreperson says the jury ultimately made their decision based on the testimony of Ariel and Dr. Koenig.
They were the only two involved.
Now, the defense did release a statement saying while they plan to appeal this decision, they are relieved that Dr. Koenig is no longer facing life in prison. In fact, they say probation is a possible sentence for this attempted manslaughter charge. However, the prosecution says they will request prison time. The judge has set Dr. Koenig's sentencing for mid-August. Joe.
All right, Liz, thank you.
All right, let's get to weather now. Unfortunately, don't put your jackets away just yet. The East Coast, we've got another day of below average temps.
There's hope on the horizon. I know that, right?
Yeah,
so I'm focused on that, Angie.
Thank you for looking on the bright side, Joe. Yes, there is actually hope on the horizon, not just yet in the short term for folks across the Northeast. We've got this high pressure that's kind of hanging around and leaving us quite chilly this morning, so much so that we've got frost advisories and freeze warnings up with some really cold lows, anywhere from those upper 20s to the low 30s. Philadelphia this morning, 32, 36 for New York. Either way, no matter how you square it, from the New England, but basically all the way down to the mid-Atlantic, temperatures are running below normal this morning. If we look a little farther to our west across the Great Lakes, even the Ohio Valley and parts of the plains, those temperatures are running above normal. We've got this high pressure that's ushering in some warmer air, and boy, does it make a difference by the time we get into the afternoon hours today. We've got upper 60s for Detroit and Chicago, 80s for St. Louis, upper 70s for Indianapolis and Paducah. So those numbers above where they should be. And yes, we do get in on this action across parts of the Northeast and the mid-Atlantic by the time we get into the afternoon hours tomorrow. So here is the hope that Joe was talking about that is on the horizon. 66 for New York City, tomorrow's afternoon high. Even Boston, 64, 75 for Washington, D.C., and almost into the 80s for Louisville. So nicer conditions on the way in the short term for all. How about the rain, though, in Florida? This has been kind of problematic for folks across this region. We've seen plenty of flooding. We've seen kind of interrupted outdoor plans, of course. And we're finally going to start to see things kind of winding down over the next couple of days, guys. But those winds will continue into the weekend. So rip current risk remains an issue, even when they do get a little bit of sunshine up and down the coast of Florida.
Should have just done spring break here.
Yeah,
Canada
exactly.
Or somewhere.
32 degrees. Sounds balmy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
You got it.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including why top federal officials are now warning of Iranian hackers targeting companies critical to America's infrastructure.
First, after the break, countdown to splashdown. The crew of Artemis II now just over a day away from their emotional return to Earth. The reflections on a historic journey around the moon next. We are back with the crew of Artemis II speeding back to Earth this morning after their historic lap around the moon. The capsule is currently more than 150,000 miles away from our planet, which you can see as this sliver in Orion's view. Splashdown is expected off the California coast tomorrow evening. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has been following this mission from beginning to end. Joins us with the latest. Tom, good morning.
Hey, buddy. This is just every single day, incredibly cool, right? The images alone, they're spectacular. Right now, the crew is asleep. Today, when they wake up, they will focus on getting ready for reentry and splashdown. Quite literally, that also means putting their seats back into the capsule, and then so they can strap in appropriately. Out in the ocean, the Navy already getting ready for their return. They've got a big ship already moving into position. And in the meantime, the astronauts last night, very late last night, held a late deep space news conference.
Just over 36 hours and counting until the crew of Artemis II is back on Earth. The four astronauts speaking late last night from more than 180,000 miles away, reflecting on some of the incredible moments they've witnessed.
Craters that appeared to just be endless, bottomless pits. We watched that Earth eclipse behind the moon. Wow, I'm actually getting chills right now.
Their small spacecraft with 4 people on board can feel pretty cramped.
We can't explore deeper unless we are doing a few things that are inconvenient, unless we're making a few sacrifices, unless we're taking a few risks, and those things are all worth it.
As they ready Orion for re-entry, a team in California has been rehearsing the recovery operations. The USS John P. Murtha now approaching the splashdown zone in the Pacific off the coast of San Diego. Dr. Jesse Wang is the lead medical. His team will be the first to make contact with the crew.
We will enter the capsule, make sure the astronauts are okay, render medical aid as necessary, and extract them from the capsule.
NASA says it will also have multiple aircraft tracking Orion's 13-minute re-entry journey that starts roughly 75 miles above the Earth's surface. After separating and entering the atmosphere, Orion will top speeds of 20,000 miles per hour, temporarily losing comms as plasma intensifies around the capsule before parachutes deploy, allowing for a soft landing in the Pacific.
And when the mission goes well, it can look like flying to the moon is easy. It certainly is not.
And while many on Earth have been awestruck by the incredible photos, the astronauts say they're grateful to offer a perspective that's become a mission mantra for NASA: moon joy.
For just a moment, have the world pause and remember that this is a beautiful planet in a very special place in our universe, and we should all cherish what we have been gifted.
Yeah, you can just really live in these moments and geek out on them. So yesterday, the crew also had a nice back and forth with the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney. And it was fun because the Prime Minister really wanted some assurances from the crew. He saw a Nutella jar floating in the spaceship. And he said, I just want to make sure before you guys come up here to Canada and celebrate with Jeremy Hansen, the Canadian astronaut, are you guys into Nutella on your pancakes or maple syrup? And they all had to reassure the Prime Minister, no, sir. Maple syrup, we are all in on maple syrup. So that will be on the menu, I think, when they get to Canada to celebrate.
That's good. Was there poutine floating around in the background as well, Tom? Or
you know,
no?
he's not from Quebec. He's from Ontario. I kind of doubt it.
Never mind. All right. Maple syrup it is. Tom, thank you.
Well, one North Texas man is keeping an especially close eye on this mission because his son is one of the history-making astronauts aboard the capsule. Jayla Washington from our station in Dallas has the story.
And it's amazing that 10 days in that little tiny space.
Since last week, Victor Glover Sr. has rarely taken his eyes off of NASA's live stream.
Could you do something like this?
No. I'm claustrophobic. Yeah, no way. Absolutely not.
His son, Victor Glover Jr.,
there he is,
making history alongside 3 other Artemis II astronauts, officially taking their loop around the moon and their Orion spacecraft. And they're getting a look at parts of its surface never seen by humans before. And like the rest of us,
yeah, it's amazing.
His dad in complete awe.
I'm always pinching myself just because it is very surreal.
He and his family were at the launch in Florida last week, taking this cell phone video and all kinds of family photos to document the big moment.
I think my heart was racing, but I was so focused on the rocket in the moment that I'm not even sure. If it had stopped, I wouldn't have known.
Now, as they await for their return, messages and even a birthday shout out all the way from space.
Birthday to my father, Victor Glover Sr.
brings comfort.
When I see him put that big smile on his face, that's where I get the comfort from, knowing that he's enjoying the ride. They took a shot of looking back at the Earth last night.
Back here on Earth at home in North Texas, Glover Sr. knows his son's faith and years of preparation will sustain him.
I'll watch him from afar, and more power to him.
And while the entire universe watches.
Now, what do you think he's feeling?
Right now, I guarantee you, he is focused, laser focused on that mission and accomplishing their goals.
Okay, Jayla Washington, thank you so much for that report. Him watching the live stream is the sweetest thing I've ever seen.
We need a live stream of Dad watching the live stream. That's what we need.
Bring
right
it
now.
to us,
There
Dallas.
we go. All right, coming up, it may not be the most palatable conversation to have this early in the morning, but it is an important one nonetheless.
We're talking gut health after the break and why one doctor says, guess what? You might just be pooping all wrong. She is going to explain that for us up next. We are back to discuss the importance of creating healthy habits in the restroom. A recent survey found that nearly half of Americans say their daily lives are affected by digestive issues.
Despite those issues, many people just are not comfortable talking about those symptoms. In fact, about a third say they'd only talk about it if their doctor brought it up first. Dr. Tricia Pasricha joins us now with more on this. She's a gastroenterologist at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center.
She wrote a new book. It's all about this topic. It's got quite the title. It's called You've Been Pooping All Wrong, How to Make Your Bowel Movements a Joy. Dr. Pasricha, thank you so much for being here. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Definitely the first time we've said poop and said it multiple times on our show because this is a taboo topic.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not on national TV, it's not something we're talking about a lot. Why are we so uncomfortable talking about it?
I think for so long we have stigmatized our gut health and we've treated our bowels like something we should be ashamed of, embarrassed of. And in fact, 1 in 3 people will avoid seeing their doctor because of their bowel symptoms because they're so embarrassed. And one thing I wanted to do with this book is to destigmatize. This is just a normal part of our bodies. We should not be ashamed of our own bodies and we should call it by name. Calling it by name is, I think, the first step towards that.
Speaking of names, you described something in the book, the concept of poophoria, which I'm guessing is on par with euphoria. What does it mean?
Indeed, yes. Poophoria is a state that I want everyone to achieve. And like you said, 40% of Americans say that their daily lives are disrupted by their bowel habits. That means most of us are not living in this state. But poophoria is not just about being regular. It is really a state in which having a bowel movement, thinking about pooping is the absolute least of your daily concerns. And you're just out there living your best life, never worrying about this thing in the background.
So how do we get there?
Well, great question. One of the things that I feel that people don't understand is even a simple framework for how to think about having a bowel movement, because we just don't talk about these things. We don't get taught them. And I usually tell my patients, okay, think about having a bowel movement like trying to squeeze toothpaste out of a toothpaste tube, okay? So this is where my framework comes in. It's the 3 Ps. So the first P is propulsion. So think about squeezing that toothpaste tube. That can be done either with the contractions of your colon or because you're bearing down. The second P is pliability. That's how soft the toothpaste is. But the third P is the pelvic floor. And I think that's the most underappreciated, under-recognized P that we need to think about. And you really need all of these pieces to come together and work with each other at the same time. And when you think about that, you're on your path towards achieving poophoria.
When people are afraid to talk about something or there's a stigma, that can open the door to misinformation. And you say there are a lot of myths out there. Do you want to walk us through some of those? What's true? What's not true?
Yeah, one of the most common ones that I hear is that you have to poop once a day in order to be godlike and achieve happiness. That's not true. You can poop, and especially in America, they've done these surveys, anywhere from once every 3 days to up to 3 times per day. And for me, it's really about what feels comfortable for you and what is the least disruptive to your social life. But there's a huge range there. One of the other myths that I hear really commonly is that you can become dependent on laxatives. People really have this fear of taking a laxative. And, you know, there's actually never been any study that has shown that you are damaging your nerves in your colon or that there's a chemical dependency. And this kind of comes back to that stigma piece that we shouldn't be embarrassed to take a laxative if we need it. We're not embarrassed to take insulin. We're not embarrassed to take our blood pressure meds. We shouldn't be embarrassed to need something for constipation. And then one of the other things that I hear often is that people think that there are pounds and pounds of poop, just lining and caking the insides of our stomach. And sometimes you just need to cleanse all of that out. This is not true.
Okay.
Your gut is very slippery. It has a thick layer of mucus. Poop is constantly moving through it, but it is not caking the lining. So all of these ideas about detoxing and cleansing, you're actually not doing anything for yourself. Your liver is doing a great job of detoxifying everything for you.
I've heard the gut referred to as the second brain. I've actually heard it a lot more recently, and that's all over social media. What do you make of that comparison? But also, what is the connection between the gut and the brain?
Yeah. You know, I think about the gut as a brain, and that's because the gut contains millions of nerve cells. And so it's more than just plumbing, right? It is a brain that is independently producing neurotransmitters. It is sending signals back up to the brain in our heads. We have known for more than a century that even just our thoughts can enact changes in our gut, right? Like right now, if I were to think about my favorite dessert, which is a gooey chocolate cake, and I were to start to think about that, my pancreas is going to start to secrete insulin. I might start to feel gurgles. I'm going to start salivating. There's almost no other organ that just our thoughts can change what that organ is doing.
Yeah.
And we know we live with this all the time in our day-to-day lives. Stress causes butterflies in our stomachs. It causes nausea. But what's really exciting is the last couple of decades, we're starting to realize how much that communication between the gut and the brain is really from the gut upwards. And so now we're learning that stress, anxiety actually can be caused by the gut, that diseases like Parkinson's disease and dementia may start in the gut.
Wow, that is fascinating. All right, Doctor, you know what? Thanks for getting us out of our comfort zone. Thanks for the potential memes to be made of whatever was on screen with us. But a really important conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And the book is out now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Coming up, the ongoing war in Iran creating more concerns right here at home.
When we come back, some new warnings from top federal agencies over Iranian hackers targeting critical American infrastructure. We're going to dig into that threat next. Welcome back. Multiple U.S. federal agencies are warning that Iranian hackers are actively breaking into American industrial control systems.
This warning concerning domestic critical infrastructure is the first of its kind released to the public since the war with Iran began.
NBC News cybersecurity reporter Kevin Collier joins us now to talk more about this in his reporting. Good morning. So what agencies are issuing this warning, and what exactly is it they're saying?
It's a host of agencies, which I think is sort of telling. It's the FBI, it's CISA, which is DHS's cyber arm, NSA, and the Department of Energy. And they're jointly saying that there's this active, ongoing campaign that is targeting industrial control systems across the U.S., and that they have been successful in some instances. I do think it's notable. We've not actually heard yet anybody percolating up that is, some water system or some manufacturer has completely gone offline and is causing significant damage, but it's happening as we speak. And it seems like it's coming in response to American infrastructure missile strikes in Iran.
Kevin, I think you said industrial control systems. Explain what that means, or what type of sectors are being targeted here, and what the impact has been or could be.
Right, so we're talking about there's a host of industrial systems. You can talk about like wastewater plants or water treatment plants or manufacturing, where a lot of things are kind of dumb robots, but they have internet connected components to help things move more smoothly, or some things might be remotely accessed. And of course, that presents kind of an attack surface for hackers to break into. So for instance, we saw a couple of years ago, some Iranian hackers were accused of breaking into wastewater and water treatment plants in the US. There were some 75 that were impacted. Now, there were no known instances of them, say, raising the chlorine level or something that would actually potentially harm anyone. But that is the kind of access that we're worried about. That's kind of access that that these agencies are saying that we are seeing right now.
Kevin, it might be seen as surprising that these agencies are making this all public. Why is that? How significant is that?
Well, there's something, you want to think that absolutely everybody who controls these systems, everybody who works at this plant, everybody who works at this, manufacturer is totally up on everything that's happening in the cyber world. But that's not always necessarily the case. Usually when you see these kind of broad alerts go out, it's because they're like, look, these agencies are saying, we want to reach as many people as possible, because it's the people that don't necessarily shore up their systems or aren't aware of exactly what Iran is doing that are more likely to get hacked, and they're trying to reach a broad audience. But that means they have to go public with saying, hey, yeah, this is happening right now.
All right, Kevin, great reporting. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Now let's take a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the arrest of a former employee of a covert army unit.
NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us with that and some other Washington headlines. Gary, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Here's what's happening in politics now. Starting down in North Carolina, where an Army employee has been arrested and charged with leaking classified information to a journalist. Courtney Williams, who once held a top-secret security clearance, is being accused of providing classified information about the military unit she was a part of to a journalist writing a book over the course of 10 hours worth of phone calls and more than 180 messages. This arrest comes as the Trump administration has vowed to crack down on the leaks of classified information. Williams' attorney has not responded to a request for comment. A group of Democratic lawmakers are calling for an Inspector General investigation at the Department of Homeland Security and State Department to look into the administration's third country removal policy. The policy allows for the deportation of immigrants to countries that they often don't have any connection with, and it sparked protests and legal challenges all over the country. The policy was found unlawful by a federal judge, but an appeals court allowed the policy to remain in effect while the appeal is underway. The group is hoping the IGs will recommend an end to the policy, but the IG at DHS can't open new investigations at the moment because of the government shutdown impacting the department. And finally, here in Washington, AI giant Anthropic will remain a supply chain risk to national security after an appeals court allowed that designation to stand while an appeals process is underway. Last week, a separate federal judge in San Francisco had blocked the Trump administration from limiting Anthropic's contracts across the federal government. This means Anthropic is considered a risk to national security while also being readily available to agencies and departments across the government. That's what's happening in politics now. Back to you guys.
All right, Gary, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, a New York success story that some might say sounds straight out of a movie.
He cut his teeth serenading subway riders for decades. Now he's performing for a different kind of audience in Hollywood. We're going to introduce you to him next.
Finally this hour, he went from the subway platform to Hollywood's biggest night. And this morning, we want to introduce you to a performer whose journey to the Oscars has gone viral. For more than 30 years, Mike Young sang in New York City's busiest subway stations, entertaining riders as they caught their train.
And now he is part of the Academy Award-winning short film, The Singers, playing a bartender in a story about down-on-their-luck performers and delivering a show-stopping moment in the film's heartwarming finale.
We are honored to have Mike Young with us in person this morning. Mike, good to see you. Congratulations on everything. Let's go back in time. When you got the call and find out you're going to be in this short film, what went through your mind? I mean, what was that casting process even like?
Well, when you're in the subway, so many people walk up to you and they tell you things, and you don't say they're lying, but you still greet people with a nice smile and everything. But when it comes true, it's a new thing in your life.
So are you saying somebody came up to you in the subway and they're like, we want you to try out this movie? Is that what happened?
Almost 2 years ago, maybe a little longer.
And what did they say?
He stood there with us for a while. I was with my brother and my cousin, and we was playing and singing. And he said, man, I got a great idea, and this is something that I'm working on. And then I never heard from him no more. And my guitar player that you just seen on the video, he's from Japan, and they called him. And he was in Japan, and he called me. He said they ready to do the film.
So he was telling the truth, this guy.
Yeah, for sure.
When you heard that, we're ready to do it, and now you're working with a group of people, not actors, but performers getting to act in this role. What was that like?
It was very exciting because to act, you don't know what you look like on film until you see the movie.
Right.
So everybody's playing it by ear, But singing is something I do all the time. So once, being a bartender and, playing the part, it was very fun because, like I say, you don't know what you look like until you get to see the film.
So singing is something you've always done, but I get the impression that since the Oscars, maybe things have changed a little bit for you. I mean, some pretty big names have joined you in the subway, right?
Yeah, for sure. And there's a few things going on,
Look at this. Who's this?
I think I see someone there.
Yeah, he's cool.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
How is this?
He was cool because I knew where to go. I had learned, some of the song, and they don't tell you he's gonna walk up.
You didn't know?
No.
So this was a surprise to you. And what did you think when he walks up?
I noticed who he was.
Good thing.
Yeah.
Let's listen to this.
In other words, I knew where I was going, what we were going to do. They didn't tell you exactly what was going to happen.
Right. I read that when you were growing up, you would sing in church, but you were like not that into it. What changed?
Well, no, and see, my great aunt ran the church, and my older cousins, everybody's grown. Everybody's showing up. So it wasn't a true, it was something that everybody in my family did. So to see my older cousins, they've been doing what I'm doing since they were my age.
Yeah.
And we were kids, but my aunt, like, we went to other churches and stuff, and you would have an envelope with your name on it. And in the 70s, $2 or sometimes $5, you were rich. So all of my friends that, lived in Brownsville, tell your aunt, man, we want to come to church too. Yeah, it was a good experience.
I know you've had moments throughout your life that you were like, this could be the big break. America's Got Talent, things like that. Your story is really one of perseverance. So what's your message to people who are trying to do what you're doing, trying to break through and have that big moment? What do you tell them?
You have to know that dreams do come true, and success is what you make it. But if for a singer, you have to have somewhere to sing. That was our way of getting up in the morning and going to the subway, to the point where police officers become your friend. People that come daily, they become your friend. They look forward to seeing you in the subway. And a lot of things come out of the subway,
Yeah.
A lot of things come from being there. But like I say, for a singer, if you have somewhere to go and it's not work, it's something that we do all the time. So you're not working, you just come in to set up. And in the beginning now, used to have police officers to come and stop you. And then it got to the point where, hey, Al Green, how you doing today?
Now they listen to you, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Mike Young, congratulations on everything. We are so happy for you. Congrats on the Oscar, and we wish you all we moving forward.
Yeah,
and you can catch The Singers. It is streaming now on Netflix. We didn't even get you to sing for us. Maybe you should sing this line. Do that? That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.